project component. Our debt is low. I am recommending that we borrow $1,350,000 to finance the additional road and bridge expenditures. We have always had low debt. We will continue to reduce debt even more this year to $25,310,000. See page 50 on that. I am recommending that we transfer $820,000 of borrowed money from last year to fund the bridge and road construction budget in 2018. I am recommending that we borrow $350,000 for the Public Works Department to fund the CCTV jail security system cameras in the third year of our commitment to the 5-year program on major maintenance in our facilities. For the past several years, we have had 4 co-directors of the Human Service Department. I am recommending that beginning in 2018, we have 1 Human Service Director and 3 Deputy Directors. I will be recommending that Patricia Dodge be confirmed as the Human Service Department Director and each of the other co-directors be named Deputy Directors. In my opinion, raising tax is not an option. We work hard to hold the line on taxes. We have concentrated on our expenditures, seeing to it that we spend the taxpayers' money as efficiently as possible. We focus on the money that the taxpayers have given us to spend, not the revenues that we could get. We have been rewarded for our continued efforts to find efficiencies. It's paid off in our services and in the quality of our operations countywide. One example of this is our self-funded health insurance plan, and see page 51 for more on that. For the last 3 years, our premiums stayed the same as we are on the low end in annual cost for the plan. This was done with a lot of planning and hard work. We review our health insurance plans every month. This results in having a dynamic and affordable health insurance plan for our employees. Our county is in good financial shape, but the budget is tight. We have made good decisions in the past which keep government affordable for years to come. I am grateful to all of the employees of Manitowoc County for the good work they do and the leaders in all of our departments. Thanks to the support of the county board and the citizens of our county, Manitowoc County government is not only more effective, but also more sustainable, nimble, and better able to adjust to change in the future. I draw your attention to the section of the budget booklet which restates and summarizes appropriations on a department-by-department basis. Other information in the miscellaneous section is also important to help a reader get to a better understanding of specific new proposals from 2018 and how they fit into the entire Manitowoc County budget plan. I believe this is a good plan, especially attuned to the times in our community. I look forward to your deliberations over the next few weeks and would appreciate your support of these proposals. As always, as is always the case, please don't hesitate to call on me if I can ever be assistance to you in this or any other issue of importance to you. And thank you very much for your consideration. Thanks.
Are there any questions for Bob at this time from the members of the board? Are we going to get copies of your presentation letter? Okay. No other questions? All right, Supervisor Hanson, you and the Finance Committee now have the budget, so I'm sure you'll be speaking about that a little bit during your report. Thank you very much, Bob. I'm sorry, I should be distributing these down as we go. All right, I will open public comment. If there's anybody from the public wishing to speak to any matter germane to county government, please raise your hand and give your name and address, and you'll be allowed approximately 3 minutes to speak on that issue. Is there anybody wishing to speak this evening? We'll start with Maura.
Chip Yost, Centerville. Good evening. I'd like to start this evening with a couple of reminders. First off is that October is Agent Orange Awareness Month, which primarily affects 2.4 million Vietnam veterans and their loved ones. As a military veteran myself, it's important that we remember that many who served still endure the physical, mental, and emotional costs of serving our nation. Of course, we all have health care needs, so this is a reminder that open enrollment for the Affordable Care Act runs from November 1st to December 15th this year, and coverage begins January 1st. You can get started at www.healthcare.gov. On the note of healthcare, our Wisconsin Congressman Representatives Grothman, Ryan, Sensenbrenner, Duffy, and Gallagher recently voted to cut Medicare by $487 billion and Medicaid by $1.5 billion. That legislation now moves to the Senate. Now, Bob likes to say that for the 12th year in a row, there is no tax increase. On the surface, that is true. We know that the county recently borrowed $10 million and that under Bob's management, the county has increased to 20 years the time taxpayers are indebted to bondholders until 2037. Some of us may be thinking, I won't be around. That's the legacy of debt. When Bob took office in 2006, county financial records show the outstanding principal balance, that's without interest, of course, was $28 million. During Bob's time in office, the county borrowed or refinanced for $24.8 million. So how much of your tax money went to paying off the debt? County financial records show that amount to be $27.3 million, almost the same amount as the original 2006 principal amount. But wait, how much interest did taxpayers pay from 2006 to 2016? $11 million. So now, how much do taxpayers owe? $34.3 million. So let's recap. Under Bob's management, county debt has increased by $6.3 million after county taxpayers paid off $27.3 million, including $11 million in interest. Bob wants you to be happy that he has not raised taxes, but there's something else to be considered here. It, thank you. In the words of money management author Nathan W. Morris, quote, "Every time you borrow money, you are robbing your future self." So is Bob keeping taxes low or robbing from our county's future? Thank you.
Thank you, Maura. Is there anybody else wishing to speak this evening to the county board? Anybody else wishing to speak this evening? And a third and final time, anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll declare public comment closed and we'll move on with the agenda. Communications are shown on the agenda. There is no unfinished business from our last meeting. There are no appointments by the county executive this evening, so we'll jump right in with committee reports. We'll start up with Aging and Disability Resource Center Board. Supervisor Wagner is the chair. Let me get to you. There we go. All set.
At this time, there's no report. Thank you.
Any questions? I know you're meeting this Thursday. No, I'm sorry, that's Natural Resource, and that's coming up. All right. I apologize for that. Thank you, Supervisor Wagner. Board of Health, Supervisor Metzger is the chair.
No report. We meet this coming Thursday at 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Metzger? Thank you very much. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Supervisor Falkowski is our representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was no meeting and no report.
Any questions for Supervisor Falkowski? Thank you very much. Let's see, Executive Committee, we met before the county board meeting tonight to talk about and do the final billing for that soybean spill, which I mentioned at the last county board meeting. We also have a resolution coming on the 30th that was passed unanimously by the Executive Committee regarding redistricting in a nonpartisan way the legislative and congressional boundaries in the state of Wisconsin, and that'll be up for your consideration as well, so that'll be in your packet. There's nothing else. That'll be coming on October 30th, our Monday at the annual meeting. Any questions? Thank you very much. Expo Ice Center Board, Supervisor Kavanaugh is our representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Expo Ice Center Board met Wednesday, October 4th at the Expo office. We selected the theme and the colors for next year's fair. The theme will be All-American Fair, and the colors will be red, white, and blue. Ice Center, they noted that the ice will be going in, or was going in, and would be ready for use by the middle of the month. We discussed, or the parking subcommittee discussed the future parking layout for next year's fair. Some of the activities that were taking place or will take place at Expo the last weekend on the 6th and the 7th. They had a horse super pull. They had teams that came in from 6 different states, so it was pretty prestigious, to say the least. Coming up on Saturday, October 21st, Crime Prevention Day is being held. Public skate, as I know with the skating, they will have that first skate, I believe, on October 14th. And our next meeting will be the 1st of November at 7 p.m. again at the Expo office. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Kavanaugh? Thank you very much. Finance Committee, Supervisor Hanson is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Three things for you tonight. We have 2 organizations that got okayed by the Finance Committee to do the auto pay deduct from the county if they can reach 12 people or have 12 people sign up. We had sent letters to 3 organizations that had shown interest last year. 2 of them responded. And again, if there is another organization that wants to put something together, there is still time to do that. The period for sign up is October 16th through December 10th. And that covers 1 year. So we'll try that new policy, see if it works this year. Number 2, we have set dates and places for the public input for the sales tax. We'll be doing a press release on that. We'll get that information to the whole county board. We will be visiting the lovely village of Maribel, the city of Kiel, and have the Manitowoc Rivers meeting right in this room. And so look for those in your email as to when those will be.
And finally, we received the budget tonight. Not sure how you want to proceed with that. We haven't had a whole lot of meetings over the last couple of years, but if you have thoughts, please email those to me. It is not a conversation, it is not a meeting, so I will not respond to a whole group, but if you send me your ideas on how you would like to proceed with that budget, I will consider those. Please do not send it to everybody on this board, because once you start responding to everybody on the board, it becomes a meeting, and then you could end up in that session that Supervisor Metzger was in about breaking the law on open meetings. So just send me an email if you have some ideas on how you would like to handle this budget and discussion of the budget, and we'll put together a meeting for that. And I think that's it, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Hanson? Thank you very much. Highway Committee, Supervisor Droll is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had not expected to be at this meeting and had asked Supervisor Benke to give the report, so I'll defer to Supervisor Benke. Thank you.
All right, you're all set, Supervisor Banky?
I have no report, Mr. Chair. We did not meet, so. Thanks for the limelight, Supervisor Giroux.
Any questions for Supervisor Banky? Thank you very much. Human Services Board, Supervisor Henriksen is the chair.
Report at this time, but I will give a double report on October 30th. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Henriksen? Thank you very much. Land Conservation Committee, Natural Resource Education Committee, Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
No report for the Land Conservation Committee. Their next meeting will be in November. And the same with Natural Resource and Education. Their meeting will be this week, Thursday at 4:30 at the County Office Complex. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Personnel Committee, Supervisor Banky is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We will start out with the, am I on?
You should be.
You? Okay.
Yep.
We will start out with resolution number 1, resolution amending employee policy manual. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Banky, seconded by Supervisor Williams. Discussion on the motion.
This, again, we continue looking at our employee policy, looking at just shoring up the things that need to be shored up, and the stepfather and mother were something that we needed to get put into the policy. There were some questions about the mother and father-in-law, but that comes in the language if you really read it correctly. It is addressed in there under that format, and that's consistent with the other the way we format it in our policy in other areas, so that we want our language to be consistent, but they are addressed within that language. So, but it does address the step parents in there. So that's pretty much where we're at.
Thank you, Supervisor Banky. Any other? Supervisor Falkowski.
Thank you. Generally, a question, this is for paid leave. Is there any restriction for unpaid leave for a funeral?
Not in this particular policy. It is the ability of the Personnel Committee on a case-by-case basis, if they want extended beyond the benefit that is provided within this policy, that they want extended leave, the Personnel Committee has the ability to do that.
But it's case-by-case basis.
If you want to extend outside this parameter, this is just paid leave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Supervisor Swade, you were next.
Thank you. It's been a long time since I've did any contract negotiations, but normally this funeral leave is also in the representative union contracts. Is that correct?
Well, after Act 10, that collective bargaining is gone,
But there is no.
except for the protected
Yeah, but
group. Yes.
and normally what would happen is whatever was in those contracts would then pass down to the non-representatives, so that everybody in the city or county were equal. Is that what this is doing?
But what this is doing is just correcting a housekeeping issue which addresses step parents in our policy, which was not addressed before. We're not changing anything else.
Okay,
What was there before.
okay, so there is
We're just
different,
addressing the step parents with this addition.
yeah, so there is different language within, for different people within the county dealing with funeral leave.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you Supervisor Swate. Supervisor Holschbach, you are next.
Thank you, and Supervisor Banky may have just answered my question, but line 26, at least on this resolution, appears to exclude death of mother and father-in-law from paid leave. And are you saying that that's covered in another part of the
No,
manual?
if you read through the key word is parent on line 25. When you read the word parent of the employee or spouse, which covers the mother-in-law and father-in-law of the parent of the spouse.
Thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Holschbach. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution amending Employee Policy Manual, Chapter 12.02, Funeral Leave.
Resolution passes 23-0.
Moving on to resolution number 2, amending the Employee Policy Manual in reference to volunteer gratuities. I so move.
Motion by Supervisor Banky. Is second by Supervisor Falkowski. Discussion on the motion.
A little history on where this all came from. The short of it is we, under the respite care and the stipend that we were paying for respite care, and I don't think there's any dispute on whether we need respite care or not. I mean, the program that we have with our foster care program is phenomenal. Someone filed for unemployment, we got dinged or notified, and we even appealed that decision that the stipend, that we shouldn't be hooked on the unemployment insurance. We lost that argument, so what we are trying to do under this scenario is to go from that stipend to the gift card. Same exact amount, it's tracked, it's gonna be tracked by the department. It's really nothing different from a stipend to the gift card. Our foster program is basically gonna run the same way, it's just the avenue of how we're going to give that amount is through the gift card program.
Any other discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution amending Employee Policy Manual, Chapter 25.06, Volunteer Gratuities.
Press it twice, there we go. Resolution passes 23-0.
Resolution number 4, we are doing those in reverse. We are doing the ordinance prior to the resolution. Ordinance number 4 sets the way that we are going to propose compensating elected officials moving forward using the banding system that we currently use on our current employees. I so move, Mr. Chair.
So motion by Supervisor Banky, second by Supervisor Vogt. Discussion on the ordinance.
As Sharon described last month and gave us a update on how this program would work, at our Personnel Committee meeting, she stated that she got no questions from any county board supervisors. And so I'm hoping that everybody understands as to where this is going to go with this format of, again, at the end of the day, let's be frank, at the end of the day, when it comes down to the line, we still decide, this body will still decide the compensation moving forward. This is a template and a format that we would like to use, and this is what we're going to implement, but at the end of the day, it's still the body here will decide that compensation down the line. So, but we're going to use this better than that picking numbers out of the sky routine that we've done in the past, And I think this is that Sharon has done a lot of work putting this together, and I think it's a fair system, and I think it corrects some of the wrongs that we've done in the past, and I think it moves us in the right direction. So I hope you support the ordinance.
Thank you, Supervisor Benke. On the speakers list, Supervisor Swade, you are first.
Thank you. This decision ban method in job evaluation, is there any kind of appeal process with that?
Within our banding system, yes, there is an appeal process to the personnel staff, and that's all documented within our employee policy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Swade. Any other discussion on the ordinance? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the ordinance creating Manitowoc County Code, Chapter 5.06, setting elected official compensation.
The ordinance passed 23-0.
Resolution number 3, establishing elected officials' compensation for the clerk of courts, coroner, county executive, and sheriff. I so move.
Motion by Supervisor Benke. Second by Supervisor Vogt. Discussion on the resolution.
Some of the changes, one of the changes that was made at the Personnel Committee meeting, the catch-up clause within the ordinance, if you, was a maximum of 5% a year. The county executive requested that that be lowered to 1 or 2% in a letter to the Personnel Committee. The Personnel Committee felt that lowering that to 3% would be more accurate. Basically changing and doing the catch-up because of the years that there was a 0 increase, and the fact that that position fell. And again, remind ourselves that we are selecting compensation for the position, not the person. And that position has fallen comparatively to a lot of other positions of comparableness, but we'll just use that word, fallen way lower than where it should be under the comparables. So the catch-up was 5%. The county executive asked for 1 or 2%. The Personnel Committee voted to have that at 3%. So that's where that portion lies.
Thank you, Supervisor Benke. We'll open up for discussion. Supervisor Williams, you are first.
I was just wondering, how is the $600 uniform allowance, how is that spent? Is it just a check for $600, or does he buy uniforms and send us the bill, or?
Nope, they're allotted $600, and I guess if Sharon wants to answer that to how that gets allotted,
Sure.
how it gets paid out, she would be able to answer that question as far as how it gets paid out. It's an allotment of $600 allowance for above and beyond their salary.
Right.
It's a $600 benefit for uniform allowance.
I've never seen him with a uniform, that's why I'm asking.
Well, I'm not
Sharon,
the person to answer why the sheriff doesn't wear a uniform. You'd have to
Sharon,
ask
would
him.
you like to come up and I guess address that? Would be great if there's no objection from the board. Thank you very much.
Also, while we're waiting, could you explain, Kevin, what working condition payment means? I noticed there's one for the sheriff and the coroner.
We'll let Sharon answer. I
Oh,
could
okay.
answer that one, but as long as she's
All right.
standing there, she could definitely answer
Okay,
your
great.
question a lot better than me.
Okay, going in order with the uniform allowance. Uniform allowances are accrued monthly and paid annually. So on the first paycheck in December, people who are eligible for a uniform allowance get that uniform allowance added to their paycheck. And that uniform allowance is provided to a number of different people and classifications. The sheriff is one of the people who's been authorized a uniform allowance, and so that payment would be made annually, the first paycheck in December.
Okay. Do they bring in a slip that they bought a shirt for $29, or?
No, it's just money on their check. Second question, the working condition premium. So our decision band method, evaluates positions according to the types and complexity of decisions made. But we also know that there are some positions that are inherently dangerous, that although we do our safety training and we provide our personal protective equipment, There are some occupations that sometimes people are going to get hurt. And so what we do is when we evaluate positions, we also evaluate what type of hazards those people are exposed to and how well we can mitigate against those hazards. Of the elected officials, both the sheriff and the coroner could find themselves in circumstances out of their control, if you will, that may expose them to hazardous conditions, and that's the rating that gives rise to that payment. And that's an annual payment, so that's an annual amount, I should say.
Thank you.
Sure.
Answer your questions, Supervisor Williams?
Yes, sir.
Anything
Thank
else
you.
at this time? All right, thank you very much. Supervisor Swade, you were next.
Thank you. On line 3, it says that, and maybe there's some, I'm reading it wrong, compensation should now be increased or decreased during the official term, but you go over in 44, 45, those areas, we are increasing their salaries during the term.
We are
I'm not
setting-
against it, you know, I'm not
we are
against that.
No.
We are setting their salaries for the term. You set it for each year of the term.
Okay, so you can do that. My
Sure.
assumption was that on the first day of their term, it was X amount of dollars. On the last day of their term, it should be the same amount.
No, when a person takes out nomination papers, it's our duty to set the salaries prior to you taking out nomination papers. So that salary for those 4 years' term is established prior
Okay.
to
Yeah.
the nomination papers.
Yeah,
being
I have
taken
no
out.
problem with that. It's just that it says that
Yep,
we aren't
does
going
not
to.
have to be the same every year.
Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor Swade. Supervisor Bauman, you were next.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to eliminate line 54 and 55, continuing the eligible for annual uniform allowance for the sheriff.
So there is a motion to eliminate lines 54 and 55, which will eliminate the $600 clothing allowance for the sheriff. Is there a second? So you can do it by hand. Second by Supervisor Williams. Do we have the amendment, Jessica? Okay, so hold on one second if you don't mind. And you will let Supervisor Bauman address the amendment to begin with. All right, Supervisor Bauman, we'll let you speak first to your amendment.
Okay, well, I agree with Supervisor Williams. In the 5+ years I've been on the board and Public Safety Committee, et cetera, I've never seen our sheriff in uniform. It seems to me that if we were going to continue it, it should be either a clothing allowance or something, but I just think that it's $2,400 over a 4-year period that's, just thrown away.
Thank you for your comments. I guess I'll just jump in a little bit. I have seen the sheriff in a, regulation uniform, I guess maybe more for special occasions. But I guess I'll defer, and I like the reasoning, I guess, from what I saw from the Personnel Committee meetings, that someday our current sheriff, Herman, will not be the sheriff, and maybe then it's time to look at, or maybe for the next, part of that, maybe when that sheriff decides to retire, maybe then it's time to look at receiving it. And I guess you can be subjective as well, and while I'm not disagreeing with your comments, I mean, it can go either way. I guess, per se, now the uniform per choice for a sheriff in Wisconsin is the suit, so I assume that, portions of that would go there. I do understand where you're coming from, and I guess in the past, I wish there would have been more of a discussion, or I guess in the past when this first came up, there should have been receipts provided and stuff, but, as we've gone on, it hasn't gone that way, so. Just my 2 cents worth, or 3 cents, whatever you want to call it. Any other discussion on the amendment to eliminate lines 54 and 55 from the resolution, which will eliminate the $600 clothing allowance or uniform allowance for the sheriff? Okay, seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote on the amendment.
Supervisors will now vote on the amendment to eliminate lines 54 and 55, that the sheriff, it would just be taking it out that he would not continue to be eligible for an annual uniform allowance of $600.
So the motion to amend failed on a 10 to 13 vote with Supervisors Vogt, Williams, Banky, Walk, Ballman, Kavanaugh, Marsh, Falkowski, Hoffman, and Dizak voting yes. So we're back to the main motion of the resolution as not amended. Everybody know where we are? Okay, well, I know we know where, but just want to make sure, okay, so, all right. Any other discussion on the resolution, or the resolution? I saw Supervisor Walk, okay. I lost my screen there requesting to speak. I saw you pull your mic down, so I thought maybe you wanted to speak. I guess, I guess I'll be the last one to speak. I have no problem increasing salaries, and if I was a vindictive person, I wouldn't support anything for the county executive after the behavior that happened here last month and regarding the county board salary, but I'm not that way. I'm still think 3% might be a little bit too high. I'm not gonna deny that. I'm not gonna make a motion to amend, but whoever serves that position will have a nice bump in salary for the next 4 years. With that, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution establishing elected officials' compensation that is for the clerk of courts, coroner, county executive, and sheriff.
Supervisor Hendrickson, there we go, thank you. So the resolution passed 23-0.
Mr. Chair, we plan on meeting or possibly meeting on June 7th, or not June 7th, at the November 7th town board or county board meeting. That is whether we have agenda items or not. I think we'll just let the finance committee take the lead on meetings that night. So that concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Banky? Thank you very much. Planning Park Commission, Supervisor Walk is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a resolution adopting the Manitowoc County Planning and Zoning Department fee schedule. Manitowoc County Code 4.13, paragraph 2 requires the applicant to pay a reasonable fee or reimburse the county for its reasonable expenses related to the review and processing of an application for various county planning and zoning permits and approvals, with a goal to reduce the burden of taxpayers as an entire group. The staff went through all of the different fees that are being charged in Manitowoc County, and there was one on, if you look under types of permits, if you look under, the pages aren't numbered, but it's new fees required in 2017 due to adoption of an NR 115. One of the items under there was impervious surfaces calculating review may include on-site. The fee of that was $350. After reviewing, the fee was reduced to $185 because the surveyors are coming in with a lot of this information, so the staff doesn't have to do that much work on that particular permit. The Planning and Park Commission is recommending a 2% increase, rounded out to $5, and that's my motion.
So motion by Supervisor Walk. Second by Supervisor Hanson. Discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote. Oh, Supervisor Falkowski, I apologize.
Thank you. In general sense, I understand the progression for fee schedules to meet some of the demands. If I was understanding over the course of the last 3 years, it has incrementally continued to increase in relationship to supporting, I guess, their demands. When I, at committee level, when I looked at this, I was trying to ascertain whether or not there was great peril in not progressing forward with the 2% increase in the fees. And that's pretty much where I settled in probably not supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Falkowski. Any other discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution adopting Manitowoc County Planning and Zoning Department fee schedule.
Supervisor Marish? There we go. Resolution passed 22-1 with Supervisor Falkowski voting no.
Item number 6 is an ordinance amending a zoning map for Deborah Lilo. And this is in the town of Eaton, and it's going from general ag to exclusive ag. The parcel is 18.39 acres in size. It's completely surrounded by exclusive ag zoning, and the town approves this rezoning request, and I move for its adoption.
So motion by Supervisor Walk, second by Supervisor Hanson. Discussion on the ordinance. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the ordinance amending the zoning map for Deborah Luloff.
Supervisor Zimmer, want to try again, please? Try, okay, there we go. It's coming. One more confirming. There we go. Thank you. Ordinance passes 23-0.
One other announcement is the Planning and Park Commission meeting scheduled for Monday, October 23rd will not be had. We're canceling it due to the lack of items on our agenda, and that's my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Walk? Thank you very much. Public Safety Committee, Supervisor Henriksen is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no report, but we will be meeting in the back room right before our next county board meeting, which is October 30th. We'll be meeting in the back room. Watch your emails for the time. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Henriksen? Thank you very much. Public Works Committee, Supervisor Weiss is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have no report, but we also will be meeting tomorrow at the Health Department, second floor conference room at 4:45.
Any questions for Supervisor Weiss? Thank you very much. Safety Net Accountability Panels, Supervisor Henriksen is our representative there.
No report, Mr. Chairman. I have a meeting scheduled with the healthcare center employees. I will give my report on the 30th. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Any questions? All right. The Transportation Coordinating Committee, Supervisor Weiss is the chair.
Also no report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Thank you very much. The only announcement, just remember, Monday, October 30th will be our annual county board meeting where the public will have a chance to give input on the proposed budget. And then the following Tuesday, which will be November 7th, we'll be meeting as a county board to discuss and possibly and probably pass a 2018 budget that night, among other items. So remember, I'm glad Supervisor Marsh pointed out to me because I was thinking it was a Thursday, which we have been doing recently, but there's been elections on that Tuesday. That's why we pushed it. We didn't want to make a burden on the clerk's department. So this year, we will be meeting on Tuesday, November 7th, and as our November meeting. If there's nothing else, Supervisor Henriksen, yes, you had something, please, there you go.
Chairman, I forgot to announce that our Human Services meeting will be October 26th at 4:45 at the Human Services Building. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. If there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Motion by Supervisor Giroux, second by Supervisor Marish. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a safe trip home.